Okay, welcome back. So I have changed for any returning viewers. I have slightly altered my branding. Basically just changing the spelling scheme for Ren. That's pretty much it. YouTube, and then of course if you're watching on YouTube, because I have decided to start doing occasional multi-streams. So if you are watching on YouTube, it's just RENN underscore with the ballistic red below. I might just shorten it to just ballistic red to match with my with my Twitch, but and Kick. I'm not sure if I'm going to be streaming to Kick at all, but it is an option. I like it more than YouTube, but for a streaming platform because it's similar to Twitch, but I'm not. I'd have to look at the respective growth strategies and experiment with them. So I don't know. Maybe I do all three. I don't really know. Twitch chat is the only one visible on stream because of its multi-streaming policy, which has changed in the past few days, but I still have to figure out how to set up dual chats or whatever. So for now, only Twitch chat is going to pop up on screen, and but anyways, let's get into the Fat Electrician. First, we've got the Florida man that ended World War II, Marcus McDilda. I swear, I think I could know a joke he's going to start with. Also, last stream seemed a little loud, because Fat Electrician's sound seems to be cranked all the way up, so I'm going to turn it down. At least it was allowed in desktop, so yeah, I'm going to just crank down the volume for the Fat Electrician. Okay, because I want him to overwhelm me when I'm talking. I was pausing a lot last time because of that, because I wanted to make sure I wasn't drowned out by his speaking. So let's get started.
I'm telling you right now, it's not clickbait. I will lay out the case that a Florida man BS'd his way into convincing the Japanese to surrender, and I'll probably end up ranting about communism along the way.
Oh,
today we're talking about.
I think I might have heard this one, like on like a podcast or something. Because it was saying how like a captured American soldier after the initial. I'm not sure if it was the initial bombing or the second bombing of Japan with nukes. Was like, yeah, we've got a lot. We had a third on the way, but those were our entire nuclear stockpile at the time. So, yeah, he just BS his way. Like, I'm not even sure if he was aware of nuclear technology, and he's like, "Oh yeah, we've got don't worry, we've got a stockpile. We got plenty."
Marcus Elmo McDilda, a 23-year-old P-51 pilot that was shot down over Japan, and in order to save his own life, proceeded to lie his ass off so much and so well that he was labeled a very important person by the Japanese government, flown to Tokyo, and interviewed by one of the heads of the Japanese nuclear programs. Through a string of events, his web of lies penetrate all the way to the chambers of the Japanese Supreme War Council while they're discussing whether or not Japan should surrender. And it is here that they become, at a minimum, a contributing factor in their decision, if not the straw that broke the camel's back, and we're going to get into it right after a word from our sponsor. This video is brought to you by Supremacy World War III, a free-to-play online PvP strategy-based game available on mobile and desktop. It is based on a World War III type scenario where you can pick your own country, go to war, or my personal favorite setting.
I've seen conflicting scenarios where some people keep ads in, others skip them. I've heard stuff about YouTube dinging you for keeping the ad in. Someone else's ad in. So I'm not sure. I've left him in, so I'm going to stick with that.
You have the American Civil War mode where you get to pick a state inside the United States and decide which other states you want to attack. It's always fun to imagine one state goes rogue and become communist, which surely would never happen in real life. So if you want to give it a try, I'll have a link and a code down below. When you use my code, you're going to unlock a free railgun weapon.
Man, I'm not sure what to add to this.
Right out of the gate. Let's get back to the video.
I mean, I guess it's nice and short, so that's cool. I didn't really have much to
Our
add
story begins
there.
on August 8th, 1945, and our main character, Marcus McDilda, a 23-year-old P-51 fighter pilot from Florida.
That name, that name, I'm like, it's one letter off.
Has the day off. Some of the other fighter pilots in his unit are getting ready to go out on a strafing run over Osaka, and one of these pilots, as they're all, getting ready, they're getting in the
Osaka?
planes, he's like, I can't do this right now. I've got battle fatigue. I can't do it. At which point, Marcus McDilda makes a critical error. He commits the cardinal sin in the U.S. military. He volunteers.
What an idiot!
You never volunteer in the military. Like, that electrician, he's a military vet. And I love the story, I think it was him where he's like, talking about like the Humvee, and he's like, yeah, I volunteer. I want to ride a Humvee. Let's do it. Like, thinking it's going to be like Metal Gear Solid or Twisted Metal or something, and it's not. Humvees are apparently terribly built. Like his first realization should have been when no one else volunteered to drive. But yeah, because the military will only ask for volunteers for all the bad things or deadly things, either way. But yeah, I mean, I've never been in the military, but from what I've heard.
So he goes, he hops in this other guy's plane. It's already fueled up, has ammo,
Right.
it's ready to go. They take off on this mission over Osaka. While they're executing the mission, he gets shot down. He survives, he crash lands in the ocean. Presumably, he's floating around in the ocean for a little while. Then the Japanese roll up and plug.
Surprised the Japanese did not. Maybe because he was a fighter pilot, got shot down. Because like that's the thing. The Japanese really liked killing enemy combatants who surrendered. In this case, not so much a surrender. He got shot down. Maybe that was like the justification for not killing him, because he wasn't cowardly. Like in the Japanese perspective of cowardly, at least he wasn't cowardly to them. He was probably, I'd assume, just based off, just how the Japanese thought process was, because the reason soldiers that surrendered were killed was because they surrendered, and therefore their human dignity was stripped of them, right? Whereas in this case, he was brave, got shot down, basically a kill, as far as, air fights go. And I mean, what else was he going to do? Like, the Japanese just probably pulled up on him being like, yeah, you're still alive, you put up a fight, we shot you down, you survived, we're taking you prisoner, we're not going to kill you.
His ass
That's
out of
my
the
best
water.
guess.
Now he's captured.
That was fast.
Okay, if you've been watching my channel for a while, or if you just know literally anything
Wait,
about...
wait. We love you guys.
That was fast.
Thank you.
Okay, if you've been watching my channel for a while, or if you just know literally anything...
Honestly, I'm not even primarily reacting. I'm probably going to do, because it says Multistream Monday, because I'm only planning on to do these on Mondays. But I'm probably going to do gaming content on here as well. And any React content I do will probably be Twitch / will probably be like not on YouTube, like occasional, like some quick thing that will obviously go on the second channel. But yeah,
about World War II, the last people that you would want to be captured by in World War II were the Japanese. And to make things worse, it's 1945. We are at the end of World War II when Japanese desperation is at its peak. So not only...
Yeah, I didn't even think of that, the fact that it's like more or less the end of the war at this point. But again, a possible benefit for fighter pilots is the fact that he got shot down, and therefore was essentially, as far as the Japanese were concerned, unable of fighting just physically. So therefore, surrender probably wouldn't be seen as harshly. Maybe. That's just my guess based off, other branches.
Is he now captured by the last people you want to get captured by? He's captured by the last people you want to get captured by at the worst possible time when they're at their most desperate. Okay, like I said, never volunteer for anything. Regardless, he is now captured. They make their way to shore. Once they get to shore, they blindfold him, and they have to walk him through the city in Osaka to get to the police military headquarters. Obviously, this creates a spectacle for all the civilians on the street. Bear in mind, these same civilians are being propagandized to believe that Americans are monsters that are coming to kill them all, and they are highly encouraged to fight them to the death.
Right.
Okay, if you're not picking up what I'm putting down, I'm trying to tell you that the mob of civilians and the MPs beat the dog shit out of him while he's blindfolded the entire way to the police station. They get there, he gets strapped down to a chair, and the interrogation begins. The questions start off pretty much exactly how you think they would, like, hey, you got shot down in a P-51, tell me everything you know about the P-51. Marcus lies about everything, just making up. Whatever they want to know, he's making up a stat. He's giving them the wrong answer, but he's acting.
Because he's a pilot of this plane. He obviously knows how it functions. It's just like, he's going to be like, I'll pretend, though. Again, you could just lie, you know? Like, what are they going to do? Try to fact check you on facts they don't know themselves?
Like it's the truth. Then, after he's answered all the questions they want answers to, they leave. A little bit of time goes by, he's still in the room by himself, strapped to a chair. Eventually, they come back in, and they just beat the shit out of him all over again. Then they ask him the same questions over again. And this goes on for hours. They come in, they beat the shit out of him, they ask him the same questions. They're just trying to see if he gives a different answer after an ass whooping, to see if he's lying about something, to figure out how credible his answers actually are. Then they come back in and they're like, how many P-51s are stationed on Iwo Jima, which is where he took off from? And he's gonna lie, obviously, and he's gonna make that lie a greater number than there actually are, because he wants to be as scary as possible to the enemy. So he says 300.
That's a lot.
At which point, the military officer pulls out an aerial reconnaissance photo showing there's only 150 P-51s on Iwo Jima, and they beat the shit out of him again for lying. Okay, they're playing mind games with him. They want to mess him up to get real information out of him. They want him thinking in the back of his head every time they ask a question, oh shit, they probably know the real answer, and if I don't tell them the truth, I'm gonna get beat again. That way, he gives them real intel. At least that's what the Japanese are trying to do with this interrogation. The problem is they're
that only works if you can fact check him. The only reason they were able to fact check him with the whole number of P-51s is because they had aerial reconnaissance photographs to show him, yeah, we know you're lying. Now, in that situation, I could be like, oh, that's we're like getting reinforcements. You can't because you can't prove that, and if he keeps up that reinforcement lie, it might slip by.
Some context clues as to who they're fucking with, and the main one being his face. I mean, look at Marcus McDilda's face. Does that look like a face that you could trust? Absolutely not. I'm not trying to badmouth the guy, but I mean, just look at that. That is a smile that a toddler gives you when you're like, did you poop your pants? And they're like, no. You're not getting in that guy's head. That guy.
Dude, I'm a terrible liar. Like, I mean, there are sometimes where I can kind of control it, but other times where, I kind of just like let it show.
This looks like he fucks with people.
That's why I don't lie.
Regardless, this goes on literally all day and into the night. Just like they come in, they ask questions, he lies his ass off, they come back in, they beat the shit out of him, they ask him more questions. It just keeps going and going and going for hours upon hours. And then the Japanese must think they have this guy on the ropes, because the questions start getting weird and oddly specific when one of the officers comes in and says, tell me everything you know about the atomic bomb.
Ooh. Oh yeah, that thing.
And this throws a wrench in
I'm not even sure if he understands the existence of atomic energy, you know? Like, this guy is just some grunt in 1945, you know? It's like, nowadays, it's like, atomic energy is like everything. But back then, like, how many people actually knew even about atomic energy, much less not only nuclear programs, and the fact that anything nuclear was actually happening in Japan. Or, well, towards Japan.
His plan, because he doesn't know anything about the atomic bomb. Like, he doesn't even know enough to lie and bullshit to make it seem like he knows what he's talking about, so he tells him the truth. I don't know anything. Okay, important context. It's nighttime on August 8th. August 6th, 2 days prior, America just nuked Hiroshima. And at this point, technically, Japan isn't even sure yet that they were nuked. I mean, obviously, they knew they were hit with a massive bomb, but they didn't know if it was an actual nuclear warhead yet or not. They had their nuclear engineers out at Hiroshima sifting through the rubble, trying to determine if it was, in fact, a nuclear weapon, and America had figured
They're going to do some radiation tests or something, if the Japanese are even aware of nuclear radiation.
how to do it. And the scientists would confirm that it was a nuclear bomb by August 9th, but at this point, they don't know that yet. So the Japanese are looking for literally any intel whatsoever, even if it's just him confirming that, yeah, that was a nuke that we dropped on Hiroshima. But the problem is, Marcus is a random ass fighter pilot stationed on Iwo Jima, 750 miles away from Hiroshima.
I just go to you.
He doesn't know shit. Not only does he not know anything about nuclear weapons specifically, he might not even realize that Hiroshima was hit with some new type of weapon. He might have not even heard that yet. He has no clue what they're talking about, but they just keep kicking his ass.
He might not even have any clue what nuclear, like I said, he might not even know what nuclear energy even is. This is 1940, this is a well, I guess at this point, post nuclear weapon. This is a post nuclear weapon guy who just doesn't know anything. That, like I said, because like you really think that they'd even acknowledge the nuclear tests? Like, you're like some guy born in like, 1920s or whatever. No one really understands what radiation is, even the professionals who study radiation. And it's like, okay, well, so like those guys don't even know really what it is. The average person doesn't even know that radiation even exists. So it's like, yeah, he probably doesn't even know what radiation is or that it even exists. Maybe. Of course, I don't know my historical context in that regard, but yeah.
Asking him questions about the atomic bomb.
Never start with the head. The victim gets all fuzzy. See?
And this goes on for a while, and then eventually they come back in the room, but this time there's a different Japanese officer with him, and this guy's a general, and he's carrying a fucking katana. Okay, presumably the whole vibe is just like, now the big boss is coming in here to show the kids how it's done. He pulls this katana out, cuts open Marcus's lip, and then tells him, and I quote, "If you don't tell me about the bomb, I'll personally cut your head off."
Bomb, 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 bomb.
Well,
Bomb, 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 bomb.
this is a problem with these kinds of tactics, is you're looking for confirmation bias. You think he knows something, therefore in your head you know he knows something. Therefore, when he says he doesn't know something, he's hiding it. He's hiding information. It's like, no, this guy just didn't know.
Bomb, you gonna arrest me?
So now Marcus is sitting there, still strapped to the chair, bleeding everywhere. He's got this new gash in his lip, bleeding all over the place, and he's like, shit, what do? I don't know anything, and they're about to cut my head off. And at this point, he has his Slumdog Millionaire moment where he just pulls every deep memory he has and concocts a giant pile of bullshit to tell
now how is this going to convince them?
This guy. He remembers
confirmation bias, maybe.
One of his military buddies that everybody had nicknamed the Brain because he had a PhD in chemistry, one day trying to explain the theory of what a nuclear weapon would look like to all the other average Joes. So he combines whatever he can remember from that conversation with just a bunch of random knowledge from whatever he remembers from taking physics and chemistry back in high school, and this is what he comes up with. This is a direct
Let's hear
quote.
it.
As you know,
let's hear what the average person thought a nuclear device was in 1945.
Oh, when atoms are split, there's a lot of pluses and minuses released. Well, we've taken these and put them inside of a huge container and separated them with a lead shield. When the box is dropped out of a plane, we melt the lead shield and the pluses and minuses come together. When that happens, it causes a tremendous bolt of lightning and the atmosphere rolls back. It brings about a tremendous thunderclap, which knocks down everything beneath it. Okay.
I mean, obviously, nuclear fission, you send one molecule to hit other atoms, split them apart, which then split other surrounding atoms apart, and so on and so forth. Major chain reaction that can be very much unstoppable, i.e. Chernobyl. I'm not sure how they control a nuclear reaction in a bomb, but I could believe they separate the electrons and protons like that. Maybe.
Complete bullshit.
Which, again, plus, minus. Protons and electrons.
making it up. Like, I don't know, man, there's protons and electrons, and then we
Right.
separate them, and then they come back together, and they clap together and make a lightning bolt, and then everybody's dead. That's the atomic bomb.
That's-
Okay, but we got to put this
I mean, that's the gist of it.
into context, right? You know who else doesn't know anything about atomic bombs? The military police that are interviewing him. On top of that, he's got a southern accent, and the military interpreter for the Japanese, I'm gonna go out on a limb and say English isn't exactly his first language.
Which, and the accent is probably not helping. But, yeah, that definitely helps his case. No one else there knows what an atomic bomb is, and he has the like, he surrounded himself with, well, I guess one person at least who had a much better understanding. So he was able to kind of be like, you know, he was already more informed than them, and he wasn't even really all that informed about atomic energy.
So it's two people arguing about something they know nothing about with a language barrier.
Right.
Because of that, they fucking buy it.
As the Japanese celebrate their discovery. What discovery?
So now,
They think they discovered something.
the Japanese think that he knows something. They keep asking more questions, assuming the intel is now correct. They're like,
Right.
how big is the bomb? Marcus continues to lie his ass off. He's like, oh, fuck, big bomb, big explosion. It's got to be pretty big, right? It's like 36 feet long and 24 feet wide. That's a direct
Right.
quote. That's what he tells.
I can't speak to how big they actually were. I more or less know it wasn't that big.
And they buy it, which is insane because
Not
that
sure
doesn't
if
even
any
make
bomb
sense.
would be that
36 feet long is like the length of a school bus, and 24 feet
Yeah,
wide would be more than 2 school buses wide. You're not
I cannot buy that a nuke, especially those nukes, maybe like a ballistic missile armed with a nuclear warhead is that long, not that wide, but that long. But yeah, like Fat Man and Lil Boy were not that big.
fitting that inside of a fucking plane, but whatever. Confirmation
Yeah.
bias is a motherfucker, I guess. They believe it.
Yep.
They start hitting him with more questions. Does America have more than one of these bombs? And he's like, yeah, we have a bunch of them. Where's America going to use this weapon next? And he thinks for a minute. He's like, okay, what's going to sound the most scary? He ends up coming up with 2 cities, Tokyo, which is the capital, and
Right.
Kaido, which is like the spiritual capital of Japan. It's got all
Those are good guesses. Not real, but good enough because Tokyo was bombed already with conventional weapons. A lot of cities were already bombed with conventional weapons. They're like, we need to bomb cities that have not been really all that touched yet. Why Hiroshima and Nagasaki weren't already touched, despite being, I believe they were industrial, despite having that role, I don't know. Kyoto would probably be another decently up there one because he didn't say Kyoto, right? I don't know if it's just his pronunciation, but I don't think he said Kyoto. That would also be another good one because again, that's, you know, the old capital of Japan, very historically important city. But again, it might have already been bombed because of its historical importance. And they weren't wanting to waste these very scarce bombs on cities that have already been bombed.
the important landmarks and all the important like religious sites and everything else. Very important to the culture of Japan. So that's what he says. Tokyo and Kaido. Tokyo's supposed to be bombed in the next couple of
Kaido. Kyoto. Yeah, that, even if it was a pronunciation error, that would not get to Kyoto. But I'd say Kyoto would probably be pretty high up there too.
days. Hearing this, the general rushes out of the room, sends a message straight to Tokyo, warning them of the impending attack, which is kind of important because you know who's in Tokyo? The Emperor and the
Right.
rest of the Supreme War Council. From
Yep.
here, Marcus McDilda is labeled a very important
As long as they don't go to Nagasaki, because Hiroshima was bombed first, right? So as long as they don't go to Nagasaki, they're going to be good.
person by the Japanese military and shipped to Tokyo so he can be interrogated by one of the heads of their nuclear program.
Ooh,
Okay, the
that
Supreme War Council
is not good. When you have someone who actually knows what he's talking about, yeah.
Japan. You have the emperor, who's like the head of everything. He's all powerful. He has complete authority over
Right.
everything. But beneath him is the Supreme War Council, the Big Six, as it's commonly referred to, which is basically the 6 people actually running Japan. It's comprised of the Prime Minister, the Minister of Foreign Affairs, the Minister of the Army, the Minister of the Navy, the Joint Chief of the Army, and the Joint Chief of the Navy. And right now, at the same moment that Marcus McDilda is getting interrogated in Osaka and or in transit on his way to Tokyo, they are having a meeting in an underground bunker deciding whether or not Japan should surrender, and if so, what are the terms going to be? So right now, it's August 9th, 1945, and they've pretty much been in this
I'm not sure how deep those old nukes could penetrate, and like how deep an underground bunker would need to be safe from, you know, one of those old nuclear warheads. I'm not sure how. Now, of course, modern nukes aren't meant to even do that. They weren't either, but obviously there's going to be some depth to it, you know, as it moves loose earth around from the explosion. Again, they're also more powerful than conventional warheads, so I'd assume they'd be able to move more debris. Who knows?
Meeting only stopping to eat and sleep since Hiroshima was bombed on August 6th. Now, the Big Six at this point in time is divided on whether or not they should surrender, and the reason for that is they don't even know for sure that it was a nuclear bomb that hit Hiroshima. They haven't heard back from the scientists yet. Then they hear back from the scientists that it was in fact a nuclear bomb that hit Hiroshima, at which point the conversation shifts from, okay, it was a nuclear bomb, but surely America only has one because they have a nuclear program. They knew how incredibly hard it was to get enriched uranium to be able to make nuclear warheads. So even though America was able to make one, surely they weren't able to make 2, let alone more. So half of the...
They didn't make more yet. I think a 3rd nuke was in development. I don't understand. I don't know how long that development was taking up until World War II ended. Of course, I'm sure the lack of necessity delayed any further development of new nukes. But yeah, it's like they had another nuke in the works, but not nearly the stockpile the Japanese were concerned about.
The Supreme War Council's attitude is, we've already weathered the storm, let's just stay in the fight. And then the bad news just keeps rolling in for the Supreme War Council. They get word that a couple of hours ago, right after midnight on August 9th, the USSR invaded Manchuria. And then shortly after that, they get word that an American P-51 pilot was shot down over Osaka and interrogated, and apparently knows all kinds of stuff about the nuclear program, and he says that America has a ton of nuclear bombs, and they're going to be nuking Tokyo next. After hearing this, half the War Council is still not convinced. They refuse to believe that America has multiple nuclear weapons, let alone enough to win the war against Japan.
Yeah, like, to people who are actually familiar with the situation, they know how hard it is to actually make a nuke, and therefore they're like, you sure about that? The only reason those interrogators were convinced was because they had no clue how nukes worked or the complexities of making them to scale.
And the primary guy pushing for this is the chief of the Navy's General Staff, Admiral Toyota. So they're in there, they're arguing, they're going back and forth.
Hold on, let me just double check that.
America has multiple nuclear weapons, let alone enough to win the war against Japan. The primary guy pushing for this is the chief of the Navy's General Staff, Admiral Toyota. So they're in there, they're arguing, they're going back and forth for hours, like, what if this guy's telling the truth? This guy's not telling the truth. And then somebody else walks in with more intel. America just dropped an atomic bomb on Nagasaki, and everybody presumably just kind of looks at Admiral Toyota like, apparently they have more. And apparently the next one's hitting Tokyo.
One more.
Which is where we're at. At this point, the conversation shifts from whether or not we're going to surrender to how we're going to surrender.
Yeah.
And again, they're split pretty much down the middle. All the people that were against surrendering are now okay with surrendering, but they have 4 conditions. And those conditions are: the emperor has to remain in power. All the Japanese military that's overseas has to be de-armed and demobilized by Japan and no one else. All Japanese war criminals have to be taken to trial and punished by Japan, not an international council or any other country. And there will be no occupation of mainland Japan. Basically,
yeah, I think when you're on the losing side of war, you don't get to make those decisions. Now, I think the US was maybe a little lenient on Japan because of, you know, how the mustache man got to power, but so therefore being a little more cautious about going all out. But yeah, usually don't get to make those decisions. And Japan trying to call the shots with war criminals, especially, is iffy.
They just want to throw their hands up in the air and be like, okay, the war's over, everybody go home.
Right.
We can collectively take credit for that because we worked as a team.
Which would be the best possible outcome for Japan, so why are the other 3 people on the Supreme War Council voting against it? Well, it's because they're realistic and they know that's never going to happen. America's not going to let you be like, okay, the war's over, everybody go home, and then you go back to Japan, nobody gets in trouble, and then you rebuild your military and try to Pearl Harbor us again. Like, it's just unrealistic. Because at this point, America had already issued the Potsdam Agreement last month in July, which basically said Japan's going to have an unconditional surrender, and that's the only way that this war is ending. So the other 3 people on the Supreme War Council are advocating, instead of having 4 conditions, which is completely unrealistic, they just want 1 condition, and that is the condition that the emperor remains in power, because the emperor at this point of time is both the spiritual and...
That was the best they could possibly do. And the only reason America would accept that is, again, because of what happened to Germany after World War One, and the fact that you know, a certain man took advantage of the weak new government, whereas keeping the imperial government, especially when you see the government, the leader of the country as basically God himself, it's like, yeah, it's probably in, like the US's best interest to keep the Japanese citizens as happy with the situation as possible.
The government leader, he's basically the son of a god leading Japan. Like, if Japan loses the emperor, they lose their entire cultural identity. Right. He's very important to...
Which would make the Japanese citizens very, very mad.
Japanese people as a whole, so that's what they want. That's, if they could get that, that would be good enough. But the other 3 aren't going for it. The debate goes on all day long. It is complete gridlock, and by 2 a.m. on August 10th, 1945, they finally have to call in the emperor to break the tie. And he votes on the 1 condition surrender, that he remains in power.
Who saw that coming?
I mean, in Hirohito's case, it's the best, because it's going to be a surrender they could probably more realistically get through, rather than the 4 condition surrender.
I did.
And that's that.
Which, like I said, America was probably on board already with letting Hirohito keep power. Like, keep Japanese citizens happy, help prevent war, all that.
Japan is now surrendering on the singular condition that the emperor remains in power, and shortly after that, later in the morning on August 10th, 1945, Douglas MacDilda finally makes it to Tokyo and is interviewed by somebody in charge of their nuclear program. He walks inside this interrogation office. There's a civilian there. He's got on a suit, a tie. He introduces himself, and he's like, I'm a graduate of City College in New York. I'm most interested in hearing your story about the atomic bomb. So Marcus gets on his lion face and repeats his line of bullshit that he told to the military police, and within like 2 minutes, this nuclear engineer is just like, you don't know anything about this, do you? No, nothing. I literally just made it all up so they didn't cut my head off, which is what they said they were going to do. Yeah, that makes sense. From here, according to all the documentation that we have, they then proceeded to have a civil, friendly conversation for a little while, and then he got sent to a different jail cell where he never got his ass beat again. The dude is just, he maxed out the charisma skill tree, okay? So now the Japanese know that this guy was full of shit, or at least he doesn't actually understand how nuclear fission works, which, for a fighter pilot, that would make sense. Right. But he was right about America having more bombs because they just bombed Nagasaki, and he could be right that America has even more, and they're going to be bombing Tokyo tomorrow.
America didn't, but the Japanese don't know that, and for all they know, he has better intel on that than them.
Which is what he said, so it doesn't change their decision to surrender. They still are willing to surrender to the American government. On August 12th, the American government comes back to their 1 condition surrender and says, no, it's going to be an unconditional surrender. To which the Empire of Japan agrees, and by August 15th, 1945, Emperor Hirohito briefs the Japanese people over radio waves where he tells them that Japan is having an unconditional surrender because, and I quote, a new and utmost cruel bomb. The real reason that Japan surrendered was actually because the USSR invaded Manchuria. Oh my God, I hate this stupid commie talking point. You know what? I got time today, actually.
I got time today. Let's go.
Yes,
on the
Einstein,
rant.
Japan, the one military in World War II that was world-renowned for never giving up, fighting till the bitter end, and be willing to die rather than dishonor themselves on the battlefield, surrendered their entire country because the USSR invaded, let me check my notes, northeastern China, 1,200 miles away from mainland Japan. Makes perfect fucking sense, especially when you take
Makes sense to me if you don't think about it for more than 2 seconds.
into consideration there's an ocean in between China and Japan, and the USSR doesn't have a fucking navy to move their troops.
Yeah.
Can't swim. What?
Now, to be intellectually honest, there was in fact a plan on how the USSR was going to move their troops from China into mainland Japan should it come to that, but that was Operation Hula, where the United States Navy was going to ferry your asses across the ocean, and you're not going to be willing to admit that because the entire reason you like this talking point is so you can show America bad, communism good.
Yeah.
But it actually was because of the shock factor, because the Soviet Union and Japan had a non-aggression pact, so they had no idea that this attack was coming. But
Really? Just like the previous non-aggression pact that got the Soviet Union to side with the US to begin with. Huh. I wonder how that worked out.
But I'm not done yet.
okay, first of all, having a non-aggression pact with one of the worst actors in World War II isn't the flex that you think it is. Kind of like you had a non-aggression pact and a secret agreement with Nazi Germany to invade Poland, and then people are like, no, they didn't invade Poland together. It wasn't planned. They just both conveniently did it at the same time and then threw a fucking victory parade together after they conquered the entire fucking country. Isn't the flex that you think it is. Show the pictures of the Nazis and the Soviet Union having a victory parade together in Poland, please. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Secondly, they absolutely knew it was coming because the Soviet Union denounced the Japanese USSR non-aggression pact on April 5th, 1945, 3 months fucking prior, and it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out when somebody goes, hey, remember that agreement we had to never ever fight? Yeah, that's off. Yeah, shocking that they would attack you right after doing that. I know, I bet everybody was surprised.
It's like, yeah, if you think about it for like more than 5 seconds, it's like, there were already broken non-aggression acts or pacts, whatever. And the Soviet Union wasn't a particularly good actor in this war. So it's like, what else would you expect?
Oh, fuck. I can't believe you've done this.
With that being the case, if they surrendered exclusively because of the USSR, why didn't they just surrender back in April? Better yet, why didn't they surrender between the 11-hour gap between Manchuria getting invaded and the second bomb hitting Nagasaki? How come the Emperor had to come in and break a tie like 24 hours later, even after the second bombing at Nagasaki? Okay, if you want to say the USSR was part of their decision to surrender, sure, absolutely. I'm right there with you. It was definitely an added factor on top of the sun.
It was like, yeah, they're like, okay, so yeah, USSR is coming for us. Sure, but we could hold them off. Like, without US help, they wouldn't even be a threat. But how about those 2 suns dropped on us?
Rising multiple times a day on several occasions, for sure. But the main reason was the fact that America figured out how to drop a fucking star out of an airplane. Saying stupid shit like Japan didn't surrender because of nuclear bombs, they actually surrendered because of the USSR invading Manchuria, is like saying, oh, my cousin Ronnie had the flu and then he died. Oh, really? Your cousin Ronnie died from the flu? Yeah, for sure. It was also the car wreck when he careened off a cliff. No, your cousin Ronnie died in a fucking car wreck. He also had the flu, okay? It might have been a small contributing factor. It's not what we're writing down on the death certificate.
Yeah, maybe if he still had the flu, you know, the fatigue and all that stuff, he shouldn't have been driving. The fatigue and all gets to you, and he made some mistakes. But it's the car crash that killed him. It's like, exactly.
Okay, and here's the dumbest part. Let's just say that you're right. For the sake of argument, you're not right, but let's just say that you are, and Japan actually surrendered because the USSR invaded northeastern China 1,200 miles away from their mainland. Let's just say that's what actually happened, okay?
That's the truth.
Even if that were true, it's still America's fault because the USSR wouldn't have survived till 1945 if it wasn't for Lend-Lease, and that's not according to me. That's according to Joseph Stalin, the leader of the USSR, when he said, and I quote, "The most important things in war are machines. The United States is a country of machines. Without the machines we received through Lend-Lease, we would have lost the war." So take your stupid America bad revisionist history commie talking points and shove them up your ass. I'm sorry, I'm getting horrifically sidetracked. I know there's a lot of normal people that are watching this like, oh, Surely the fat electrician's being dramatic. There's not a significant portion of people that actually believe that. Trust me, there are. They'll be in the comments down below. They're in comments all over the internet. They're absolutely everywhere.
Probably.
I promise you they're real. I'm not making it up. Anyways.
Almost lost my cool there.
August 15th, 1945, the Emperor gives a speech. He announces that
Live
Japan
action
is
Grinch.
surrendering. That doesn't become official on paper and signed until September 2nd, but pretty much from the moment he made that announcement, effectively all tensions ceased. The war was over. Because of that, Marcus McDilda is released from his internment camp on August 30th, 1945. He then has to go to trial to testify against Japanese war criminals because the original internment camp that he was captured at in Osaka, he is one of only 2 airmen to survive that internment camp because after the Emperor announced his surrender, the man in charge of that internment camp elected to have all of his POWs executed. So while being able to say that Marcus's lies contributed to the Japanese surrender is speculation at best, it is an absolute fact that it, at a minimum, saved his own life, which is why he is commonly cited as a case study example as to why and how torture doesn't work. Because believe it or not, people that are about to get their heads chopped off will say literally anything they have to not get their heads chopped off. Shocking, I know.
Yeah.
Regardless, after World War II, Marcus McDilda would return home to Florida. He would marry his wife. They would have 3 kids, and he got to live happily ever after.
Again, his name, I'm just waiting for at least a slip up.
That is the story of how a 23-year-old P-51 pilot, aka the Florida man of World War II, created an elaborate lie to save his own life, and that lie created a piece of intel that America was going to nuke Tokyo and had a bunch of more nuclear weapons, and through a weird twist of fate, that exact piece of intel made it into the Supreme War Council of Japan's chambers at the exact moment that they were debating on whether or not America had more nuclear weapons, and it may or it may not have pushed them over the edge and forced them to surrender. Thank you for watching. Best way to support the channel is go buy some merch, maybe drink some Echelon. All that's available over at thefatelectrician.com. Quack, bang, out.
Let's see if he's got the...
I'm telling you, you have to follow the cardinal rules of the military. Never stand when you could sit, never sit when you could lay down, never be awake when you could be asleep, and never volunteer for anything.
Yeah. Okay, wait, what else is there? Oh,
Don't forget to go check out Supremacy World.
just a plug for the sponsor. Okay, yeah. Good. Yeah, I very highly doubt it played a role. They already knew of the second bomb by the time they knew he was captured, or well, by the time the War Council was aware that he allegedly had intel on nukes and that there were more. They're like, because at that point it was like they had 2, of course they have 3, like kind of thing, or at least speculation that they probably have 3. Let me go to my full webcam so we can swap out. Got a new singer setup. That was a simple one, but I think it's cool. I mean, probably a little long. Probably could be shorter. I'll have to edit the timing. I'm not sure if you could do that in this, so it'll probably stand for a little bit, but yeah, time for the next Fat Electrician video, which conveniently on my screen is right.
I had no idea that this.
So we are on to, let's get the singer going. My new toy. No, this is game capture. Give me a minute. But yeah. So this is the second channel, the Fat Files, the company that owns sports instead of advertising. Red Bull is in the thumbnail, so I assume that's what this is about. Also, it's the only company that I know that is very heavily focused on like extreme sports.
I had no idea that this was the 3rd largest beverage company on the planet. Today we're talking about Red Bull. Why are we looking into energy drinks? 1, because I drink energy drinks and I like them. And 2, I actually own part of an energy drink company, Echelon, and I decided, if I want my energy drink company to be successful, I should probably look at what all the other successful companies are doing so I can replicate it or improve upon it.
Genius.
The question is, how much of it does he own? Because minority versus majority stakes, also First of all, that could be semantics, but also like, cooperation between owners of a split or joint owned rather company like that. You have to have cohesion to run it effectively. Just major things like that affect the ability for this to effectively run.
Honest with you, I almost skipped right past Red Bull, went straight to Monster because, well, honestly, I don't really like Red Bull. I think it tastes like cough syrup. It's got way too much sugar in it. I don't like their tiny little cans. You guys have seen my wife. I'm an Arizona tea-size can kind of guy.
Right.
That means two things.
Until I did the research for this video, I was thoroughly convinced the only reason Red Bull was still in business was because it tastes good mixed with vodka, and the only reason people think it tastes good mixed with vodka is because it's the only option of energy drink any bar ever has. But then the voice in the back of my head is like,
Really?
wait a minute, why is Red Bull the only option at every bar ever? Like, how come bars aren't offering like White Monster or Cherry Lime Ghost or Echelon or any other energy drink that tastes 1,000 times better?
Self-plug.
And then also, how come every gas station I've ever been to has an entire, like door dedicated almost exclusively to Red Bull while all the other energy drinks have to share shelf space? So I'm like, okay, maybe I'm living in a bubble. Maybe Red Bull's way more popular than I think it is. And boy, is it, because they have 43% of the global market share for energy drinks. To put that
That's
into
a lot.
perspective, they sold almost 14 billion cans of Red Bull last year. Okay, do you understand how
How?
big of a number 14
Well, I
billion
mean,
is?
I know
That's
how, but-
200,000 tons of aluminum just for the cans alone. Okay, that's like 440 million pounds of aluminum every single year just in Red Bull cans. Okay, I'm just yelling big numbers at this point. To put it into perspective, the Iowa class battleships, the biggest battleship America's ever created, is 57,000 tons. You're putting out Red Bull cans equivalent to 4 of the largest battleships ever fucking made every single year. So yeah, they're
Okay.
way more popular than I thought, and we're gonna get into
Yeah.
it right after a word from our sponsor. This video is brought to you by Henson's Shaving. Okay, look, they've sponsored the channel before, and every single time I get comments, why is the guy with the beard recommending a shaving product? Okay, I have to separate the face hair from the chest hair at some point, okay? There is some amount of shaving going on. And for that
Okay.
shaving, I use Henson's. Why? Because they sent me one for free 3 years ago and paid me a bunch of money to do ads for them. Obviously, you weren't expecting a YouTuber to be upfront about it, were you?
Nope.
But also, I
No.
wouldn't be doing the ads if I didn't like the company, so why do I like the company? The product's cool, it looks cool, and it works. What else do you want from a razor? Oh, also, it's way cheaper than everything else on the market. It doesn't seem like it at first because the razor itself is $79.99, it's machined out of aircraft-grade aluminum, but once you buy it, you're done. It's gonna last you the rest of your life, and then the only thing you ever have to buy again to keep shaving is actual shaving safety razors, and that's it. You can get them from any
Why would I pay for a very expensive? You could do that with like a $20 razor or whatever.
anywhere. All the safety razors fit. You don't have to buy their special proprietary ones, and it's like one box is $5, and it's lasted me 3 years. I haven't even got through my first box yet. Every other shaving company is like, oh, we buy our special handle, and then we have these click cartridges that go on top, and on the click cartridge, there's 17 different smaller razor blades, and there's this gel pad that gums up after 2 fucking uses, and by the way, it's 5 cartridges, it's like $30, it'll last you about a month, so you can basically spend like $30 to $40 a month on shaving stuff, or you could just pony up one time, buy the thing you need, and then you could shave for the rest of your life. That's it, that's the ad. Buy nice shit, buy it once, use it for the rest of your life. I'll have a link in the description down below. Back to the video. All right, let's take it from the top. 1976,
I like that style, but
Thailand. There's this guy by the name of Chaleo Yovuda. He grew up in rural Thailand as the son of a duck farmer, which I didn't know was a thing, but whatever. Anyways, he grows up. He
I mean, different cultures, I guess. Like, obviously, we don't farm and eat ducks here, but, you know, different cultures eat different things, you know.
He doesn't want to be a duck farmer forever, so he moves down to the big city of Bangkok, the capital of Thailand. While there, he works as a bus driver and a pharmaceutical salesperson, and then eventually opens up his own pharmaceutical company called TC Pharmaceuticals. They basically import cosmetics and antibiotics. And in 1976, he decides he wants to create his own energy tonic, which is a popular product in Asia at this point in time, not really popular or well known anywhere else in the world. Basically, it's like the predecessor to what we know as an energy drink today. It's these little shots that you can buy at the pharmacy. They've got caffeine, taurine, B vitamins, all the
I mean, I feel like tonic is kind of like pseudoscience for, well, fancy talk rather for pseudoscientific medicines. So yeah, I could see why it wouldn't be popular in the US at this point.
shit that's in a normal energy
I think the US moved on from tonics at this point.
drink. You go to the pharmacy, you buy it, you drink it. It's like drinking an energy drink. Buh! I heard they put bull cum in it too. Buh! Now, No, they did not put bull semen in the Red Bull, okay? It's an internet myth.
Okay.
The whole myth comes from the word taurine, which is in like every energy drink ever. Taurine refers to the word Taurus, you know, like a bull, and everybody's like, oh, it must obviously mean bull semen. No, it's literally just a derivative of red meat, okay? You get taurine from eating a steak, they just extract it and they put it inside the energy drink, okay? It's not that. Moving on.
I assumed there was semen on everything.
So he ends up making his own. He calls it Krating Dang, which is Thai for red gore, and a gore is like this type of bull-looking animal they have over in Thailand. It's like a symbol of strength. And from here, he just starts selling his product. He's a pharmaceutical rep. It's an easy layup for him, right? Oh, you want to buy this new energy tonic too? Great, here you go. And he's selling it to pharmacies. And then he decides, you know what? People that are shopping at pharmacies don't really need energy drinks. The people that need this are people like my parents, the farmers, the people like me when I was being a bus driver, like blue-collar people that are actually working for a living are the people that need this product. I need to market it towards them. So he starts marketing to the blue collar workforce, and the main way he does this is by sponsoring Muay Thai fights, which is like the biggest sport in Thailand. It's like,
okay, I can see how this gets into Red Bull once it comes over to the West, being it's basically tied in with sports, especially extreme sports, because it's like they're already sponsoring Thai sports to help sell it, so why not do that in the West?
Sponsoring the NFL in America. And pretty soon he goes from selling his product inside of pharmacies to selling his product in pretty much every convenience store type location. I mean, they don't really have gas stations back then in Thailand like America has gas stations, but think of like roadside mom and pop shops where you'd buy like food, water, drinks, stuff like that. Anything you would need, there's Krating Dang there right by the register. Okay, it's kind of like those weird gas station boner pills that you see at truck stops, okay? Don't give me that look. You know exactly what I'm talking about. They've got like the one pill in the package with like a rhino charging at you and like an explosion in the background. It's like, be bigger, harder, for longer, bleh. Okay, and then right next to that, there's Krating Dang, an energy tonic with two giant Red Bulls headbutting each other. Like, it's one of those. But Krating Dang actually becomes outrageously popular and is being sold all over Thailand because, again, Chaleo tapped into a market that nobody else was targeting, blue-collar, hardworking people that actually needed a product like this. Fast forward to 1984, an Austrian business...
Not sure how well it works, but yeah.
Businessman by the name of Dietrich Matchowitz, Dietrich, his name's Dietrich.
You say your name right now.
He's a marketing guy for some big company. He flies into Thailand for a business meeting. He's got jet lag, so before his business meeting, he stops at a convenience store, sees this energy tonic that's supposed to, you know, give you a little pick-me-up, decides to drink it. It cures his jet lag. He absolutely loves it. Problem is, they don't have products like this anywhere in Europe where he's from. And he's a marketing guy. He sees the potential. So he ends up going to Chaleo and like, hey, we need to start a new company and start marketing this to Europe and the United States of America. People in the West would absolutely love this shit. So they end up working out a deal. Chaleo can keep Krating Dang. That's his own company. That's his thing. That's what they're going to sell in Asia. But they're going to start a new company to market this product in Europe and the United States of America. And nobody knows what the fuck a gore is in those places. So they're going to rename it to Bull. And they create what we know today as Red Bull. 49% owned by Chaleo, 49% owned by Dietrich, and 2% owned by Chaleo's son.
You guys are getting paid?
Dietrich then takes Krating Dang back over to Europe for product testing, and people do not like it. Okay, it's not very good. It's literally like medicine at this point in time. So they refine the formula, they add some sugar, they carbonate it, they make it more like a beverage, and then
surprised that he liked it because he's European, but okay.
They send it back into product testing.
I get why the appeal to like the Asians in Thailand who, you know, have their own, you know, cultural tastes, but like, you know, the European guy flying in, drinking it, being like, this works really well. It tastes terrible, and we're going to, you know, test it on, or well, not test it on, but have people test it who also are inclined to think it tastes terrible, but, you know, sure. Little chinks we can work out later, I guess.
And it does okay. Okay, this is the same flavor of Red Bull that we have today, right? Like it's not good. And I'm assuming it's because flavor science back in like the 1980s wasn't that great. Like energy drinks today, they taste exactly like Sour Patch Kids or Swedish Fish or anything that you...
Nowadays, they are like meticulously crafted to taste a certain way. Like, dude, even 40 years ago, it's like, yeah, we're just going to like throw in flavors we think are pretty good. You know, it's probably going to be healthier because, you know, we're just throwing in things we think are good rather than crafting this chemical concoction or whatever that isn't good, that tastes great, but is terrible for you because it's just a bunch of chemicals.
You can have a flavor for.
Even back in the 80s, I think it was a bunch of chemicals.
They somehow managed to make that liquid taste like that. Like you could have a Doritos flavored energy drink if that's what you really wanted in 2026.
Don't tempt me with a good time.
And then you have like Red Bull, the OG energy drink, and it tastes like Red Bull. Like there's no even identifiable flavor that it kind of tastes like. It tastes like sweet chemicals.
Kerosene is fuel, Brian. Red Bull is fuel. Kerosene is Red Bull. See, Brian? I feel great.
Now, to most people, you'd be like, okay, well, let's figure out how to make it taste better so people will want to drink it. But Dietrich, being a mad genius, is like, no, no, no. Tasting like shit is actually a strength, because then if it tastes like medicine, people will know that it actually works. Which is one of those things where it's like, it's so stupid that it's actually brilliant, because that's exactly what a lot of people are gonna think. Like I know so many people that are like, no, 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 if it sucks to do, it must be good for me. Okay, if you're not figuring out what to put down, I'm trying to tell you that Red Bull is like the craft beer of the energy drink world. Okay, we've all been around these craft beer people where you like go to the brewery with them and they're like, oh, do you like IPAs? Do you like sours? And you're like, I have no idea, dude. I just like beer. Just whatever you recommend, that's what I'll try. And then they order you what they supposedly like and they hand it to you. It doesn't even look like beer. It looks like a potion that some wizard just made in the back. It's all thick and foamy and shit. It's always got some stupid name like, okay, this is my favorite IPA. It's purple unicorn muffin tops. Then you take a smell of it and it smells like grass clippings and regret. And you're like, you don't want to be rude. So you try this guy's good beer and it tastes like you dissolved a pine cone in acetone. It's horrible. And then they get all smug and arrogant like, oh, you don't like it? Can you not handle the hoppiness? You don't like the bitterness of it? Maybe your palate's just not refined enough. Now,
yeah, bitterness isn't good. That's like, dude, I'm old enough to drink, and that is one major reason I don't drink, because I don't like bitterness. It's like, dude, come on. Like, get off your high horse. Oh, you don't like bitterness? No, because bitterness freaking tastes awful.
Like, no, fuck off. That tastes like carbonated tree bark. You know that tastes horrible.
This tastes like somebody poured it from an old boot. Actually, it's a sneaker.
Sorry, I'm getting sidetracked. Anyways, Red Bull is supposed to taste bad. Like, it's part of the marketing strategy. And from here, Dietrich really turns on the marketing genius, because he's like, you know what would pair perfectly with, we've
it's a little loud.
Designed it to taste bad so people know that it works. If we combined it with being a luxury product. Krating Dang was marketed to, blue-collar, hardworking people. It was sold for fairly cheap. So Dietrich is gonna take basically a carbonated version with more sugar of the same product. He's gonna put it in a slimmer, fancy, prettier can, and he's gonna market it to rich people instead and jack the price through the roof. Okay. I'm going off the rails again, I'm sorry. It's IPAs. It's literally a carbon copy of the IPA business model, even though Red Bull did it first. Like, literally, IPAs, you could go to the liquor store, buy a 30 rack of Busch Light, Miller Light, Coors Light, whatever beer you want, or counter offer, you could buy a 4-pack of IPAs that have a pretty can and a quirky name and taste like shit for 3 times the price.
So does all the other beers you just named.
But hey, you get to pretend like you're sophisticated and better than everybody else, so it's worth it. I'm sorry, I really don't like IPAs, if you guys can't tell. Moving on. Anyways, Dietrich jacks the price up. It costs like 9 cents to manufacture a can of Red Bull. They're selling anywhere from $3 to $6 a can, depending on size. Now remember, we're trying to sell this to rich people. We're trying to be a luxury item. Where do we go to target rich people? So they start selling this stuff at ski resorts. And around the same time in the late 1980s,
you do have to be rich to be a skier.
There was this other thing going on at ski resorts. It was like this cultural revolution around ski resorts, snowboarding. It was like the skater rebellious version of skiing that was.
And because that's the thing, like skiing and snowboarding, especially if you want to be good at it, you got to take time off of, work, so it's like, unless you actively live in that mountain range, you can just do a weekend trip to the snow lodge. It's like, yeah, the only people who could do it realistically and get good at it especially are, these rich kids. Like, I remember hearing this one snowboarder. He was like hated by all the other snowboarders because he was actually just an average, lower middle class person who just really liked snowboarding and really wanted to get good at it. Meanwhile, and so like he would take all the prize money, where like all these rich kid snowboarders were like, yeah, we could just split the, $20,000 between all 16 of us. And this guy was like, no, I need these $20,000 to support my family. F off. And he was hated for it, despite honestly, despite being the best snowboarder. And it's like, and I can't speak to his like ego and stuff, but if I remember correctly, like basically his, so to speak, negative qualities were really overblown. Because all the other popular snowboarders just didn't like him because they were entitled rich kids who could actually afford not to take all the prize money because they had mommy and daddy's inheritance. While this kid is like, dude, we don't got 2 nickels swept together. I'm taking the money.
For more like grungy, less hoity-toity people. And you know who fucking loved Red Bull and energy drinks? It was all the snowboarders. And Red Bull geniusly recognized this, right? Because sponsoring already established mainstream athletics is extremely expensive, but here's this other new up-and-coming sport that we think is gonna be big, and they already love our product. We're gonna start investing in that instead. So Red Bull starts sponsoring a bunch of snowboarders, and then that expands out into all the other extreme sports like skateboarding and BMX, and then it turns into Red Bull's just sponsoring anything that's like that high adrenaline junkie type stuff that you see on the internet. Like,
it makes perfect sense too, because this is like an energy drink that, you know, it's like it's already, so they already want to get that kind of like high octane kind of thing going on.
Jumping out of planes in a squirrel suit, or like racing a car down a mountain really fast, like anything that's dangerous where you're like, holy shit, how does somebody get that good at doing that without dying? Red Bull's sponsoring that now. Then Red Bull realizes like, okay, this demographic is almost exclusively like young men, so that's our demographic. That's who we're gonna target. We're gonna target young dudes that wanna be amped up and do crazy shit. We can't target high schoolers yet because they're not of age, so we're gonna target the next best thing, college kids. Red Bull starts going to all the big party colleges in the country and starts finding like the guy that throws all the parties or like the fraternities and just starts giving them cases and cases of Red Bull for free. Like, here, drink this shit. They hired hot college chicks in little Red Bull mini skirts and outfits to walk around college campuses giving out Red Bulls for free out of cooler backpacks. They went as far as going to popular events with a lot of people and filling a bunch of the trash cans up completely with empty Red Bull cans, so people would see that and be like, holy shit, that's a popular product, and they would go buy it at the concession stand when they were there. This cost them a ton of money, probably tens if not hundreds of millions of dollars in free product that they just gave out. But it was totally worth it, because guess what a bunch of college kids are gonna do with free energy drinks? They're gonna mix them with alcohol so they can party harder, longer, and this was the birth of the vodka Red Bull, which turned into people going to bars asking for a vodka Red Bull. So naturally, after the bars got asked enough for vodka Red Bulls, they decided they needed to start stocking Red Bull. And that is why bars pretty much exclusively only carry Red Bull and no other energy drinks, because they were the only energy drink around and everybody wanted vodka Red Bulls. So when they started stocking Red Bulls so they can make vodka Red Bulls for everybody, Red Bull made them sign a licensing agreement like, hey, we'll give you this free little Red Bull mini fridge, we'll stock it for you, but here's the deal, you're only allowed to sell Red Bull energy drinks. And everybody agreed to it because at the time, they were the only energy drink around, and all those licensing agreements are still in place. And that's why almost every single bar, at least in the United States of America, just has Red Bull. So from here, Red Bull just becomes outrageously popular. Like, it is the OG energy drink. It's literally the third most profitable beverage company on the planet. It's Coca-Cola, Pepsi.
I don't know what this whole M thing is, but in Red Bull's rising, well, it looks like Coke and Pepsi are going down, so interesting. Dr. Pepper Mountain. Those Monster.
Than Red Bull. And if we're being honest, Coca-Cola and Pepsi aren't really competitors with Red Bull, because soda and energy drinks are two different things with two completely different markets. So as far as I'm concerned, Red Bull is the Coca-Cola of the energy drink world, and just like Coca-Cola, they also got accused of having cocaine in their drink. Yeah, around this time, Red Bull was getting super popular, obviously very popular with young people, so naturally older people fucking hated it for no apparent reason.
You can see where the cocaine allegations come into play.
They're like, oh, it's bad for you, it's unhealthy. They're lecturing all the youth about it while drinking black coffee and smoking on a cigarette, explaining how it's bad for your heart. And then,
I mean, it's an energy drink, of course, but again, smoking ain't good for your lungs. Can't speak to the heart health, but
One of the things they brought up, just trying to pin Red Bull to the wall on anything they could find, was Red Bull had a like organics flavor that was Red Bull Cola, and it tested hot for having cocaine in it. Basically, because it was a cola flavor, they were using coca leaves, you know, Coca-Cola. They were using coca leaves. They were decoconized leaves, meaning they didn't have cocaine in them, kind of like decaf coffee doesn't really have caffeine, but there's still like a tiny little itty bitty trace amount of cocaine in the leaves, just like with Coca-Cola. So they went to the table being like, there's cocaine in this.
I swear to God. Swear to me.
Anyways, Red Bull ended up like hiring the scientists, and they're like, you would have to drink like 12,000 cans of Red Bull to actually have that cocaine take effect. Literally, you would OD on every other ingredient in the Red Bull before you ever got a high from that level of cocaine. I believe the official wording was it was a negligible amount of cocaine, which honestly sounds like you went to court with Charlie Sheen as your lawyer, but hey, that's a great name for an energy drink flavor. Like that should be the official flavor name of Red Bull, negligible amount of cocaine. So from here, Red Bull spends years and probably a ton of money, like hundreds of millions of dollars in courts, battling with governments. They're getting banned in different countries in Europe, then they get them unbanned, then they end up getting sued because their OG tagline was Red Bull gives you wings, and they got sued because Red Bull doesn't actually give you wings.
Of course, you have that stupid stickler who's like, oh, we're just going to take this tagline that is meant to be hyperbole, literally.
Apparently, I guess they actually ended up losing the lawsuit because the court said, well, yeah, we didn't actually think it would give us wings, but we thought it would increase our athletic performance, and they couldn't scientifically prove that drinking Red Bull increased the performance, so they ended up losing the lawsuit.
I mean, all the YouTube ads I see nowadays of Red Bull is Red Bull gives you wings, so I guess that didn't hold up long term.
Okay. But Red Bull comes out the other side bigger, stronger, more popular than ever. And at this point, like I said, they're the third biggest drink company on the planet. They're making billions of dollars a year. And they're like, okay, we've got the whole, you know, young extreme sports thing on lock. We've got the college kids on lock. Now every bar is only allowed to sell Red Bull. Where do we go from here? We're finally ready. We're finally a big enough company. We can start doing those mainstream sporting athletic sponsorships that we were thinking about originally because...
Let me guess, it doesn't work because you already got your target demographic locked in, and yeah, no one else outside of that is going to care.
We can afford it now. Not only can we afford it, we can afford to go a step further. You know what's cooler than sponsoring an athletic team or sponsoring an athlete?
Buying it?
Just buying the fucking team outright. Red Bull just starts buying entire professional sports teams. They have one of the largest and most diverse professional sport team portfolios of any other entity on the planet. They're the only company on the planet that owns 2 F1 teams. They own 6 professional soccer teams, 6 pro hockey teams. They have a pro rugby team.
Which hockey teams do they own?
Like, they own everything. And in another stroke of genius, they go a step further.
Honestly, hockey would make sense for them because it's pretty extreme for a mainstream sport.
Because they're buying multiple sports teams in the same sport, they use one of the sports teams as like their main team with their best talent, and they use the other sports teams as like their reserve where they train people up and get them really good and build them a fan base, and then they eventually migrate up to the top level team. And in doing this, an athlete's pretty likely to end up being like a Red Bull soccer player his entire career, or a Red Bull F1 driver his entire career. So now not only is Red Bull associated with like the team franchise, it'd be like being associated with the Indianapolis Colts. Now instead, every athlete on that team and that athlete's fan base is associated with Red Bull as well. So now Red Bull isn't just to, you know, keep with the analogy, it's not just associated with like the Indianapolis Colts, now it's associated with Peyton Manning. It's brilliant. They vertically integrated everything flawlessly. So now not only are they making money selling their energy drinks, they use that money to buy professional sports teams to promote their energy drink, to sell more energy drinks, but also the professional sports teams are really good and they're making money too. Rather than paying to promote their product like every other company on the planet, Red Bull literally figured out how to get paid to promote their product. It's crazy. And then their social media marketing gets even crazier because they're getting paid
27.5 million subscribers. F1 drivers race oldest to newest cars. That is actually sounds like a great video idea that only Red Bull could actually afford to do
that too. Look at their YouTube channel, 27 million subscribers, and every video has millions, tens of millions, if not hundreds of millions of views. Okay, inside baseball, there's no like standard base pay for like how much money you get per view if you're big on YouTube. It depends on creator, length of video, what demographic you're in, yada, yada, yada. But the general rule of thumb is every million views is about $5,000. They've got 164 million views on a single video. That's like like $820,000 they made to promote their own product. And none of these videos come off as like an advertisement. It's all just crazy people doing crazy shit. Like they're doing parkour in an airport. There's one where they're like driving a 10-ton...
This is a very natural feeling for these people.
Red Bull truck down the most dangerous road in the world. There's another one where a dude skydives from outer fucking space. Like, they just associated Red Bull with doing crazy cool shit. And they figured out how to get paid every single step of the way, because they're not just getting paid for getting 164 million YouTube views. That's 164 million people that just watched an inadvertent Red Bull advertisement.
Right.
They're now gonna subconsciously associate Red Bull with doing something awesome. And that's the big takeaway from this. It's branding. Red Bull is not the best tasting energy drink. It's not the healthiest energy drink. There's almost no metric where you can give Red Bull the title of best at anything involving being an energy drink, but they have the best brand. It's not about being the best.
As long as you can convince people that you're cool, you're cool to eat, drink, consume in any way, shape, or form, you won.
It's about being the favorite, which makes complete sense because you have to appeal to human emotion. You have to connect to people to be able to get them to spend money on your product. Think about it like a UFC fighter. You could be the best UFC fighter on the planet. You're undefeated. You finish everybody in the first round. But if you're an unlikable asshole and you don't have any fans, you're not going to get paid a lot of money. You could be a B-tier fighter that goes in there and has entertaining fights. He wins some, he loses some, never becomes a world champion, but he's got a ton of fans because people like him. That guy's going to get paid more.
Yeah, it's also kind of like the underdog idea, like, oh yeah, he's average, but he's a fighter kind of thing.
Money by the UFC because that's how it goes, because he generates more money because he's the favorite. And Red Bull, because of their genius marketing strategy, is the favorite, and that's why they're successful. Thank you for watching. Best way to support the channel is go buy some merch. Maybe
going to have an outro.
All that's available over thefatelectrician.com. Quack bang out. I'm gonna get so many requests to do a video on gas station boner pills. I know it.
Maybe. Okay, let's see. Oh. Okay. So yeah, that is it for today's video or stream. But yeah, that was also a good video. So yeah, definitely going on doing multi-streaming. Again, not sure if I'm going to commit to YouTube or Kick, or what the deal will be with those secondary streams. However, I will obviously primarily be streaming to Twitch. If you are currently watching on YouTube, Twitch is primary. So make sure to go check that out, because I'll be, for now at least, I'll only be doing this on Mondays. Go check again, or Kick, whatever one. Point is, there are going to be times I'm not streaming to YouTube. So go follow me on other platforms, at least Twitter, so you get notified when I do go live. But so yeah, with that being said, that's all for today, for today's stream. Until next time, I will see you then. Goodbye.